The first condolence card arrived before breakfast. James placed it on the table, his hand steady, but his eyes not. Dolly Bantry picked it up. Black edges, neat typewritten address. She raised her brows. Condolence? For me? Her laugh. Quick. Really, James? Someone has blundered. James kept silent, lips pressed, gaze fixed on the floor. Dolly slit the envelope. Inside, a heavy card, printed words, in deepest sympathy for your loss. Then in a rougher hand, so sudden, so cruel. She laughed again. Absurd. I'm alive, am I not? James spoke low. Still, madam, it is odd. Addressed to you, sent local. She waved him off. Post office mistake, nothing more. Footsteps in the hall. Colonel Arthur Bantry entered, eyes sharp. Even at breakfast, he saw the card. What's this? Dolly handed it across. He read slow, mustache twitched. Postmarked, St. Mary Mead, 7 o'clock last evening. She shrugged. A muddle. People confuse names all the time. He looked at her, steady. Muddle, perhaps. But this handwriting, he tapped the added words, is deliberate. Someone meant this. Dolly frowned, dismissed it. I will not have my morning spoiled. Pour the tea, James. The butler obeyed, but his hand shook as he set the pot down. A knock at the door. James returned with 2 callers. Mrs. Harriet Pike walked in. First, gray hair tight, portfolio clutched, face stern. Behind her, Veronica Denham, younger, elegant, Dolly's cousin. Darling Dolly, Veronica kissed her cheek. How radiant you look. Not a day older. Mrs. Pike nodded curt. Apologies. Fund accounts require review. Dolly gestured. Very well. Bring your papers. James, more cups. Colonel Bantry stood. I'll leave you, ladies. Dr. Haydock expects me. He kissed Dolly's cheek, then went out. Mrs. Pike spread her papers, numbers, ledgers, notes. Dolly only pretended interest. Another knock. James appeared again. Miss Marple, to see you, madam. Dolly brightened. Jane, how good of you. Miss Marple stepped in, small frame, white hair, eyes sharp. She carried a knitted comforter. For your morning room, draughty this time of year. Dolly smiled. How thoughtful. Miss Marple sat, her gaze casual, yet not. It drifted to the black-edged card near the teacup. She asked mild. Condolence, already? Dolly chuckled. Yes, someone thinks me buried. Harmless mistake. Miss Marple turned the card. Typewritten address. Added words in ink. Curious. Veronica waved. A prank, surely. Mrs. Pike sniffed. Printer's error, nothing more. Miss Marple said, quiet. Mistakes. Reveal more than truths. Before Dolly could reply, James entered again. His face pale. He held another envelope. Another card, madam, black-edged, but not like the first. Dolly reached for it. Her fingers trembled. The room fell still. Cliffhanger. The second condolence card lay unopened, heavier than the first. The second post carried a darker weight. James set the envelope down. Same black edge, same thick paper, but not the same feel. Dolly reached for it. Her hand paused. Really? This grows ridiculous. Miss Marple leaned forward. May I? Dolly handed it across. Marple examined the lettering, her eyes sharp. Curious. Look here. She pointed at the address. The letters neat, except one. The letter E it sat higher, slight tilt, mechanical flaw. Veronica frowned. What of it? Marple spoke calm. Typewriters carry fingerprints. This misaligned E could identify the sender. Dolly waved her hand. Oh, Jane, really? Too much weight on a silly letter. Mrs. Pike adjusted her glasses, tone clipped. Surely no more than a faulty machine. Printers make mistakes. Marple smiled faint. Faults tell stories, Mrs. Pike. They rarely lie. Dolly set the card aside. I will not give it power. People write foolish things. The words hung heavy. No one answered. Veronica broke the silence, voice bright. Too quick. A prank, Dolly, that is all. Some bored villager. Ignore it. Marple's gaze flicked to her cousin, but she said nothing. James cleared his throat. There is more, madam. This card differs. How so? Dolly asked. James explained, slow. The handwriting inside, not the same. Different ink, heavier stroke. Dolly waved again. 2 mistakes, then, twice muddled. I will not tremble over nonsense. Colonel Bantry's voice echoed from the hall. You should take this seriously, Dolly. She turned sharp. Arthur, do not begin. A woman cannot eat breakfast without her husband turning prophet. His jaw set, but he left again. The room quieted. Mrs. Pike tapped her portfolio. Shall we proceed with the accounts? This distraction wastes time. Dolly gave a thin smile. Yes, Harriet. Drown sorrow in numbers. Marple's voice cut soft. Not sorrow yet, merely warning. Dolly dismissed her. You will have me in black before luncheon. Number enough. Veronica shifted. Hand trembled as she lit a cigarette. Smile forced. You see, Dolly, even Miss Marple loves dark hints. Ignore them. Life is dull without gossip. But her eyes betrayed her words. Dolly turned to James. Take these cards to the sideboard, out of sight. James obeyed, careful with the stack, but pale. He spoke low. Madam, there are more sympathy cards waiting. The air stilled. By 11, the tea tray rolled in. Silver teapot, cups, toast. Dolly's eyes brightened. Ah, marmalade, at last. Miss Marple said nothing. She watched. Her needles paused, her eyes fixed on the table. Mrs. Pike shuffled papers. Figures clear enough, nothing alarming, just small gaps. Dolly reached for toast. Gaps will wait. Breakfast cannot. She spread marmalade thick, her hand steady, her voice brisk. This jar is my mother's recipe. No day complete without it. Veronica leaned forward. Darling, you eat too much sugar. Dolly laughed. Better sugar than your London cigarettes. Colonel Bantry entered, boots dusty, gloves off. Dr. Haydock sends regards. He will call later. Dolly raised her toast. I feel fit as ever. Tell him I will see him only if he insists. She bit, chewed slow, face at ease. Marple's eyes narrowed. Her knitting stopped. Dolly swallowed, then paused. Her hand touched her throat. I say, how odd. Her voice cracked, face drained, body shook. She dropped the toast. Colonel Bantry lunged. Dolly! Mrs. Pike gasped. Portfolio hit the floor. Veronica shrieked. What's happening? Dolly's breath short, lips blue. She clutched the table, then collapsed sideways. Bantry caught her arm. James, call Haydock, at once. James dropped the tray, ran. Marple rose fast, her calm surprising. Lay her flat, Arthur. Keep her head steady. Bantry obeyed, voice breaking. She can't breathe. Marple checked the pulse, thin, erratic. Her mouth tightened. Mrs. Pike backed away. I can't watch. Veronica pressed a handkerchief. Her voice trembled. She was laughing. A moment ago. Colonel Bantry shook her gently. Stay with me, Dolly. Stay. Marple's voice, sharp. Arthur, brandy, quick. He rushed. James returned, pale. Doctor on his way. Veronica bent low. Her hand shook. She looks dying. Bantry shouted. Don't say that. Dolly's chest heaved. Hands twitched, eyes half shut. Marple leaned low. Steady now. Hold on. She motioned James. Open windows. Clear space. No crowding. The butler obeyed. The room tense, each breath shallow. Bantry muttered low. Not like this. Not at breakfast. Veronica sobbed. Tears real. But her eyes darted to the marmalade jar. Marple followed her glance. Her face darkened. James whispered. Doctor should be here in minutes. Bantry clutched Dolly's hand. Voice raw. She is strong. She will fight. Marple stepped forward. her gaze on the table. The jar sat open, spoon inside, crumbs near. She lifted it, moved it away, her face sharp, voice low. This must not be touched again. Cliffhanger. Miss Marple's eyes held the truth. Something inside the marmalade had struck Dolly down. The house broke into confusion. Dolly lay still, her body slack, her chest barely moved. Mrs. Pike cried out, "She's gone!" Her voice shrill. She clutched the wall. Veronica staggered back, her hand over her mouth. "No, this can't be happening." Colonel Bantry bent low. "Dolly, breathe, damn you!" His face wet with sweat. Miss Marple's voice cut through. "Silence, give her space." She knelt, her hand firm on Dolly's wrist. "James," she ordered, "bring water." Cold Mrs. Pike wrung her hands. "What use is water? Call the priest." Marple turned sharp. "No hysteria. Fetch blankets instead." Veronica's breath shook. She was well. Moments ago, she laughed. Colonel Bantry gripped Dolly's hand tighter. "She'll not leave me. Not like this." James rushed back. "Doctor is on his way. I telephoned." Marple pressed Dolly's wrist again. Faint pulse. Weak beat. "She lives," Marple said, steady. Mrs. Pike gasped relief, then froze again. "But why? So sudden?" Marple's eyes narrowed. "That is the question." Colonel Bantry looked up. His voice cracked. "You mean, not natural?" Marple gave no answer. She only pressed Dolly's chest. "Keep her flat. Do not lift her." James spread a blanket. He placed it over Dolly. Colonel Bantry's face pale. She never complained. No illness. Nothing. Marple looked at him one, "Which makes this worse." Footsteps echoed fast. Dr. Haydock entered, bag in hand, breath short from the run. He went straight to Dolly. "Tell me what happened." Colonel Bantry pointed at the toast. "She ate marmalade, then collapsed." Haydock bent low. He checked eyes. He checked pulse. He checked breathing. His face grew heavy. He opened his bag, injected a vial, waited. Dolly stirred faint, then stilled again, her lips still blue. Haydock rose slow. His gaze went to Colonel Bantry. "This is grave." Colonel swallowed hard. "Say it plain." Haydock wiped his brow. Her pulse irregular, her throat swollen. Veronica's eyes wide. "Food allergy?" Haydock shook his head. "Number not that." Mrs. Pike stepped closer. "Then what is it?" Haydock hesitated. His eyes flicked to Miss Marple. She met his gaze. Her face gave nothing. Colonel Bantry's voice broke. "You must tell us." Haydock leaned close. He spoke low, so low only Marple and Bantry heard. "This is no accident. The marmalade jar looked innocent. Dolly had been carried out. The ambulance took her away. Colonel Bantry went with her, his face pale, his jaw set. The hall fell silent after they left. Only whispers filled the room. Mrs. Pike sat rigid. Veronica clutched her handkerchief. James moved about in stiff silence. Miss Marple stepped closer to the table. Her eyes fixed on the marmalade jar. She lifted it gently, turned it toward the light. She dipped a spoon along the rim, tasted with caution. Her face tightened. "Bitter," she murmured, "not the taste of oranges." Mrs. Pike frowned. "What are you doing, Miss Marple?" "Checking," Marple replied, her voice calm, her words clipped. "Poison hides where people least notice." Veronica's hand shook. "You mean she was poisoned?" Marple gave no direct answer. She touched the rim again. Her finger brushed a darker smear. "Foxglove," she whispered. "Deadly, if taken." Mrs. Pike gasped. "Foxglove from the garden?" Marple nodded. "Leaves crushed, mixed into marmalade." Her eyes moved slowly round the room. "Deliberate, not mistake." James shifted uneasily. "I keep the garden neat, but foxglove grows there." "Yes." Marple studied him a moment. then turned her gaze back to the table. Her hand moved to the tray. She picked up a plate of cakes, seed cakes, neatly arranged. She leaned close, sniffed the edge of one, her lips pressed, her eyes sharpened. "These too," she said softly. "Tampered." Mrs. Pike's voice rose. 2 attempts? On the same morning? Veronica stepped back. Her voice cracked. "That means it wasn't chance, it wasn't mistake. It was certain." Marple placed the cake down. She looked at the marmalade jar again, then at the half-eaten toast. Her eyes stayed hard. James spoke low. "I only served what was on the tray. I swear it." Marple nodded once. "I do not accuse you, James, but the facts are clear." Veronica whispered. "She was meant to die. That's what you're saying." Marple turned toward her, her face calm, her voice steady. "Number, I am saying. Someone ensured she could not live." Mrs. Pike shook her head. "This is monstrous. Why Dolly? Who would—" Marple cut her off. "Not yet, Mrs. Pike. Questions will wait. For now, the truth is enough." She pushed the marmalade jar aside, covered it with a cloth, did the same for the cakes, then looked at the others one by one. "Remember this," she said quietly. "Not 1 but 2 poisons were set. That tells us more than panic ever could." The room fell silent again, each face pale, each mind racing. Miss Marple folded her hands, her words final. Someone wanted her death. Certain. The doctor returned with grim news. Dr. Haydock stepped in, his eyes down, his words slow. "It is over." Colonel Bantry froze. He stared. He whispered once. "No." Haydock placed a hand on his arm. "I'm sorry. We tried, but poison works fast." The colonel sank into a chair, his head bowed, his hands pressed to his knees. He said nothing more. Mrs. Pike let out a soft cry. Veronica turned her face away. James stiffened at the door. Miss Marple did not move. She only folded her hands tighter. Her voice came low. "Then we must face what is left." The room shifted in mood. Every word seemed louder, every silence longer. The colonel lifted his head. "Why her? Who would dare this?" His voice rough, his eyes wet. Haydock shook his head. "That is not for me to decide, but she is gone." Colonel muttered again. "She was strong. She was happy. Only yesterday." His voice trailed into nothing. The sound of wheels broke the stillness. A car outside. The door opened. Inspector Slack walked in. He looked around. His face unreadable. His voice clipped. "I heard the news. I came at once." Colonel rose unsteady. "You come too late. She is dead." Slack nodded once. "Then I must act. Tell me everything. Leave nothing." Marple spoke calm. "She ate marmalade and seed cake. Both touched. Both poisoned." Slack's eyes narrowed. "You are certain?" "Yes." Her tone steady. "No accident. 2 deliberate acts." Slack looked toward the servants. "James, did anyone touch the tray before you?" James straightened. "No, sir. Only myself. I carried it as always." Slack's brow furrowed. "You swear it?" "I swear it." Veronica spoke fast. "Then it could have been anyone who stepped inside last night." Mrs. Pike nodded quickly. "She is right. Visitors came, some uninvited." Slack's gaze moved back to Marple. "Names?" Marple shook her head slowly. "Later. Not now. Too many in this house are still shaken. Let them breathe first." Slack muttered. "Breathing won't help when poison is loose." Word spread quickly beyond the house. By evening the village hummed. In the shop, whispers rose. At the post office, rumors flew. The churchyard echoed with speculation. Lady Bantry dead. Not natural. Poison, they say. Who would do such a thing? The gossip spread like fire. Every corner knew. Every mouth spoke. Every eye turned toward the Bantry name. Colonel sat alone near the window, his face hollow, his voice broken. She deserved better. Marple sat beside him, her words soft. She did, and truth will speak for her now. The clock ticked heavy. Slack stood by the door. He cleared his throat. Enough sorrow. The law must move. He looked at them all, his voice flat. Private inquest only. Too many details don't match. By evening, wreaths began arriving. James carried the first inside. White lilies, a card pinned. From the village hospital fund. Colonel Bantry barely looked, his eyes hollow. Place it by the table. Minutes later, another wreath came, also lilies, same ribbon, same card. James frowned. Strange, sir. 2 from the same? Colonel lifted his head. What do you mean? James showed both, side by side, identical words but not identical hands. Miss Marple leaned forward. Let me see. She picked the first card, neat type, even letters, strong spacing. She picked the second. Her eyes narrowed. Her finger tapped the ink. This one is different. Veronica scoffed. A wreath is a wreath. What does it matter? Marple's eyes stayed fixed. Because this one hides intent. Mrs. Pike leaned closer. What intent could flowers carry? Marple held both cards. Notice here, the letter E. See it? The colonel squinted. It looks the same. No. Her voice steady. Look again. One sits lower, one pressed offline. James stepped back, uneasy. I've seen such in letters, too. Condolence cards this morning. The colonel's face hardened. Are you saying the same hand forged this? Marple nodded once. Yes, the same typewriter, the same fault. Veronica laughed nervously. So someone copied a card. That means nothing. Marple turned. On the contrary, forgery is never harmless. It means someone wants to confuse. Someone wants to mislead. Silence fell. The second wreath still on the floor. The scent heavy. The card trembling in Marple's fingers. Haydock entered again, his coat still on. Wreaths already? Fast work for a funeral not yet fixed. The colonel muttered. Too fast. Marple handed him the forged card. Read. Haydock looked, then grunted. Yes, that E. Crooked, always crooked. Once seen, never forgotten. Mrs. Pike shivered. Why would anyone forge sympathy? Slack entered just then. He caught the words, his tone sharp. Because false mourning hides true guilt. The colonel bristled. Are you accusing already? Slack shrugged. Not accusing, not yet, but lies leave trails, even in ink. The house grew quiet. The second wreath left untouched. No one wished to claim it. Marple spoke low, her eyes moving across each face. We must not dismiss this. The hand that pressed this card pressed poison, too. Colonel's fists clenched. Inside this house? Marple's eyes stayed firm. Perhaps. Or close enough to know the family's sorrow. Before the world did. James cleared his throat. There are only so many typewriters in the village, only so many hands. Slack nodded slow. And I'll count them all. Veronica shifted in her seat, her voice thin. Surely no one here? Marple cut her off, her voice quiet, but sharp. The forger lives among us. The casket was closed. The church bell rang dull. People gathered in silence, no viewings allowed, no last look. Colonel Bantry spoke flat. Medical reasons. She must be kept closed. Whispers followed. Nods passed from pew to pew, but questions stirred under breath. Too fast. Too secret. Why no farewell? James stood rigid at the side, his face pale, his lips pressed. He carried no tray now. Only tension. Mrs. Pike dabbed her eyes. She should be seen. It feels wrong. Veronica whispered back. Perhaps he cannot bear it. Leave him his grief. But Miss Marple leaned close. Her eyes stayed fixed on the coffin, her voice just above breath. It is not grief alone. Something else weighs here. The service droned on, hymns sung half-hearted, prayers spoken low, the air thick with doubt. The colonel rose to speak, his voice heavy. "My wife, my dear Dolly, she was light to this house, she will not be forgotten." He faltered, his hand shook. He sat again without finishing. Slack shifted in his seat, his eyes cut toward Marple. He read her silence. After the service, villagers gathered outside. One man muttered, "Closed coffin?" Always a sign of shame. A woman hissed, or worse, what if she was not there? The gossip traveled quick, from gate to lane, from mouth to mouth, always circling back to the Bantry name. Marple walked beside Slack, her hands folded calm, her voice low. "Too quick a burial, too little shown." Slack frowned. Doctor signed it. He vouched for poison. What more? "More," she said simply. "Always more." They stopped near the gate. The colonel came past, face drawn. He brushed by them without a word, his shoulders bent, his step uneven. Marple watched him go, her eyes thoughtful. He hides more than grief. He hides decision. Slack muttered, "Or guilt." Marple shook her head slowly. "Not guilt, not yet, but something concealed." The second wreath still lingered in her mind, the crooked E, the forged sorrow. And now, a sealed coffin, no one could question. Veronica joined them, her voice sharp. "You two look at him as though he killed her. He did not. He loved her." Slack replied. "Love never stopped secrets or closed lids." Mrs. Pike added softly, "I wanted to say goodbye, just once, but no one allowed." Marple touched her arm gently. "We all deserved a last look. Truth deserved one, too." The villagers began to drift away. One carriage rolled, another followed. Soon the yard grew thin. James approached Marple, his voice hushed. "Miss, I carried the coffin. It was light. Too light." Slack turned quick. "Light? Explain." James swallowed. "I've borne coffins before. This one. It did not feel right." Marple's lips pressed firm, her eyes locked with Slack's. She whispered slow, "Perhaps the casket holds nothing at all." Night fell over Gossington. The lamps glowed dim. The hall stood quiet. James gone to his quarters, Colonel locked in his room. Marple stayed in the study, Sergeant Lake at her side. They kept watch in silence. Lake whispered, "Do you expect trouble?" Marple's eyes steady. Trouble often comes when shadows deepen. Minutes stretched slow. The clock ticked. Then, soft steps. A figure eased in, Mrs. Pike, her shawl drawn tight. Her eyes darted. She thought herself alone. She crept to the desk. Her hands trembled. She pulled open the drawer. Papers rustled. Marple raised a finger. Lake stilled. They watched. Mrs. Pike drew out a ledger. Dolly's hand clear on the cover. The household accounts. The hospital fund listed inside. She flipped quick. Her eyes hunted. She marked one page. Her lips pressed thin. Lake whispered low. "What is she after?" Marple answered calm. "Theft often leaves numbers crooked." Mrs. Pike pulled a pencil. She wrote over figures. She scratched columns. She rubbed entries. Marple stepped forward. "Looking for a miracle, Mrs. Pike?" The woman froze. The pencil dropped. Her face blanched. Her lips quivered. Lake moved fast. He blocked the door. Her eyes darted wild. No escape. Marple reached for the ledger, her tone firm. "These numbers, they hide more than sums." Mrs. Pike shook her head. "No, Con, it was not like that." Marple flipped a page. She tapped one line. "Dolly found these errors. You feared exposure." Mrs. Pike clutched her shawl. I only meant to frighten her." Lake's eyes narrowed. "You poisoned her marmalade?" Her voice cracked. "I put drops, only drops, enough to make her ill, enough to stop questions, not death." Marple's eyes sharpened. "Yet she died." Mrs. Pike sobbed. It was not my hand alone. Someone else. Someone finished it. Lake stepped close. Name them. She shook her head, frantic. I swear. I never saw who. I only saw the jar later. It was heavier with poison than I left it. Marple's mind worked swift. Her voice calm. Then 2 hands touched the same jar. Yours first, another after. That is why Dolly never rose again. Mrs. Pike fell into the chair, her breath shallow, her words tumbling. I took money. I hid it. She knew. She kept ledgers sharp. I only wanted her silent. Lake took out his notebook. His pencil moved quick, his voice stern. You admit theft. You admit poison. Mrs. Pike nodded, broken. Tears stained her cheeks. I only meant to make her sick, not kill her. Her words twisted the truth. Mrs. Pike sat slumped. Her hands clenched her shawl, her eyes red. I stole, she whispered. I altered accounts. I feared Dolly would speak. Lake pressed. And the poison? She swallowed hard. Yes, I mixed drops into the marmalade, just to weaken her, never to kill. Marple leaned forward, her tone steady. But she died, Mrs. Pike. More than weakness, finality. Pike shook her head, quick. Number that was not me. I swear it. I touched only the jar. Someone else. Someone finished her. Lake's pencil scratched his notebook. He repeated, sharp. Not you. Then who? I cannot say, she answered. I only know the taste was stronger later, bitter, much stronger. Marple's eyes narrowed. She recalled the breakfast table, the toast, the marmalade, the seed cakes. Her voice turned low. The marmalade was not the only dish. The cakes, too. They bore signs of tampering. Lake stiffened. You mean 2 poisons? Marple nodded once. One attempt laid by Pike. Another hand moved after. A second path to the same end. Mrs. Pike trembled. I never touched the cakes. I never went near them. Marple's gaze steady. Then your guilt is theft, an intent to sicken, not full murder. Pike lifted her head. Her voice cracked. She found my fraud. She scolded me. I panicked. I thought to buy time. Just time. Marple answered calm. You gambled with a life, and someone else raised the stake. Lake closed the ledger. He looked to Marple. So she is not the sole hand. Another moved. Another planned deeper. Marple's thoughts turned inward. 2 poisons. 2 attempts. 1 victim. 1 coffin closed too fast. She spoke soft. Who profits if Dolly is silenced? Not Pike alone. Pike's tears fell. I am guilty of theft. I am guilty of fear. But not this death. I swear Lake stood tall. You will face the inquiry. But your words shift the case. Marple placed a hand on the desk. Her fingers rested on the ledger. 2 lines, 2 poisons, 2 culprits. The puzzle widens. The clock struck midnight. The house heavy with silence, yet tension thick. A truth still hidden. Lake muttered, we thought 1 hand. Now there may be 2. Marple's reply cut sharp. 1 poisoner hides behind another. 1 mask shields a face. We must find it. Pike buried her face. Her sobs low, her voice muffled. I never wished her death, only her silence. Marple's eyes softened. Intent matters, but death weighs more. Lake turned to the door, his hand on the knob, his voice flat. We need Slack. He must hear this himself. The hall creaked. Footsteps came quick. Slack entered firm. His eyes scanned faces, his tone blunt. Well, what truth now? Lake spoke straight. She admits theft. She admits poison, but not the death. Slack's eyes narrowed, his jaw tight. He said, slow, steady. Then there's still another hand in this. Attention turned inside the hall. Colonel Bantry sat stiff. His hands gripped the armchair, his eyes bloodshot. Lake stood nearby. Slack leaned forward, Marple quiet, watching. Slack's tone cut sharp. You ordered the funeral quick. Why? The colonel shifted. My wife was gone. There was nothing to hold. Marple spoke calm. But you denied an open casket. You gave no chance for farewell. The colonel frowned. She was poisoned. Her face was, I wish to preserve dignity. Lake folded his arms. Or hide something deeper. The colonel glared. Are you accusing me now? Slack kept steady. We are asking why you rushed. Villagers whisper. Too much haste for a grieving man. The colonel's voice rose. I am grieving. I buried the woman I loved. Do not question that. Marple's eyes held him. Love shows in truth, yet you sealed the coffin before inquiry. The colonel's fists tightened. I followed the doctor's counsel. Nothing more. Slack shook his head. Haydock advised speed, yes, but he did not demand secrecy. That was you. Silence pressed. The clock ticked. The colonel's breath heavy. Lake broke in. You managed every detail. Flowers, casket, timings. You allowed no input. Why such control? The colonel's gaze dropped, his voice low. I feared scandal, cards, whispers, poison. She deserved peace, not gossip. Marple leaned closer. And yet you gave them gossip. Your actions stirred. Doubt more than truth. His head lifted. I protected her, always, even in death. Slack's tone harsh. Or protected yourself? The colonel froze. His jaw locked. His hand trembled on the chair. Lake whispered to Slack. His grief masks more than sorrow. Marple shook her head, slow. Number his grief is real. But grief can drive rash deeds, even concealment. The colonel's voice cracked. I wanted her remembered with dignity, not dissected, not displayed. Slack leaned in. Then why block the casket from all, even her closest friends? The colonel's face turned pale, his reply strained. Because I could not bear it, to see her still, to let others see her broken. Marple's eyes softened. Grief, true. But shadow remained. Lake muttered, pain or strategy. Hard to read. Marple answered quiet. Both can live in one heart. The colonel wiped his brow. I gave her all my years. I lost her in a day. Do not strip me further. Slack's gaze sharp. You understand suspicion lies heavy now. Quick burial, closed coffin, haste to end it. The colonel did not move. His lips pressed tight, his silence louder than denial. Marple folded her hands, her voice low. Truth will clear, or condemn, but truth will not wait long. Slack leaned back, his eyes narrowed, his tone cold. Did you help stage your wife's death, Colonel? The truth cracked open. Marple sat at the side table. The tea tray had been cleared earlier, yet one cup remained, Dolly's own. She lifted it slow. The rim bore no stain. The spoon rested clean, the cup unchipped, unbroken. Lake frowned. I thought everything was packed away. Marple nodded. It was. This cup was gone when Dolly collapsed, yet here it sits again, returned. Slack narrowed his eyes. By who? Marple's voice, steady. By someone who knows its weight. This was her personal cup. No one else drank from it. If it vanishes, then reappears. The meaning is deliberate. Lake leaned closer. You think it matters? Marple turned the cup in her hands. No poison trace. No damage. Perfectly intact. Then why remove it? Unless... She stopped, her eyes sharp. Lake pressed. Unless what? Marple set the cup down. Unless Dolly did not die as told. Unless the hospital tale holds holes. Slack's brow furrowed. She was declared dead. Haydock signed it himself. Marple's reply calm. And Haydock also urged the quick burial. He shaped the path. He spoke of medical reasons. Yet now this cup speaks louder. Lake muttered. You mean Haydock covered something? Yes, Marple said, firm. He may have joined a deception, either by will or by pressure. Slack paced the floor. Too big a claim, Miss Marple. You're suggesting Dolly never died? Marple's tone cut clear. I am suggesting the evidence does not match the story." Dolly collapsed. She was taken away. Then word came she died, yet no one beyond Haydock truly saw her death. No villager, no friend. Lake's pencil hovered. So the closed coffin was empty? Marple's eyes narrowed, or filled with nothing but show. The colonel pushed for secrecy, perhaps to shield Dolly, perhaps to shield himself. But either way, truth shifts. Slack stopped pacing. If she lives, why hide it? Who gains? Marple folded her hands. To escape scandal, to unmask enemies, or to lay a trap. Dolly knew too much. Perhaps she agreed to vanish, only for now, Lake whispered. Then Pike poisoned her. But Dolly survived, and now? Marple's voice low. Now someone else hunts still. 2 poisons, 2 attempts, 1 fake funeral, and this cup returned as a signal. Slack's jaw tightened. So Haydock is drawn in, his hand on papers, his word on death. He may know where she is. Lake rubbed his temple. Or he silenced her after all. Marple shook her head. Number. The cup would not be here if silence were final. This is not closure. This is message. Slack stared hard. You believe she herself placed it? Marple's lips pressed thin. Either Dolly placed it, or one close to her obeyed, but either way the trail points forward. Lake's voice dropped. Then the village grieves a ghost. Marple nodded slow. Grief may be real, but truth may differ. Slack leaned closer, his tone half disbelief, half demand. Say it plain, Miss Marple. What do you think? Marple's eyes held steady. Her words fell sharp. Dolly Bantry may be alive. The garden gave new secrets. Marple stepped onto the path. Lake followed close. The herb beds looked orderly at first glance, but she bent low. Her fingers brushed the leaves, foxglove stems, several freshly crushed, the soil damp, the break recent. Lake muttered, So Pike really pulled it from here? Marple nodded once. Yes, the foxglove she used to taint the marmalade came from this patch, but look closer. She pointed to the ground. A short piece of waxed string lay tangled between stalks, not decayed, not weathered, dropped in haste. Lake frowned. Waxed string? Doesn't fit Pike's method. She never tied bundles. She just plucked and ran. Marple's eyes sharpened. Exactly. Someone else harvested more carefully. Someone who needed to store or bind the plants. 2 hands, not 1. Lake wrote it down. 2 poisoners. Marple's gaze hardened. Or 1 accomplice. Pike admitted to the marmalade. She never admitted to the seed cakes, yet foxglove appears in both. This string proves her story partial. Slack arrived behind them. What now? Marple handed him the string. Fresh, sticky with residue. It carried cut stems. Someone wanted to hide. Handling Slack rubbed it. His eyes narrowed. So Pike lied again? Marple shook her head. Not lied. Withheld. She never worked with such care. She was clumsy. She only wanted Dolly ill, not dead. Another hand ensured death. Lake whispered. Then Pike was only half guilty. The rest lies elsewhere. Slack growled. Another villager, then? Who? Veronica? James the butler? Marple's face calm. Notice the timing. Pike confessed once caught. But the cards began before the poisoning, and the forgeries continued after. One hand wrote threats, another prepared plants. The overlap is too neat. Lake tapped his pencil. So at least 2 involved. 1 writing, 1 poisoning. Marple corrected him. Or both doing both. But together, a joint effort, masked as 1 crime. Slack's jaw tightened. Then Dolly faced a web, not 1 enemy, but more. Marple's eyes lingered on the garden. Enemies work in pairs when profit is shared. The hospital fund, the forged accounts. Pike stole, but who else handled the money? Who else signed papers? Lake replied fast. Veronica, she had access. Slack exhaled. Or the colonel himself. He ran her donations. He pressed for the closed coffin. He pushed the funeral fast. Marple turned back, her voice low. No conclusion yet. But the garden proves this. Pike alone did not secure Dolly's death. Another hand bound these stems. Another hand spread poison further. Lake stepped back. So Dolly wasn't facing just Pike. She was trapped by two. Marple closed her eyes for a moment. Her tone carried both resolve and sorrow. Dolly trusted too easily. That trust was broken from more than one side. Treachery doubled. Slack's voice cut sharp. "Say it clear, Miss Marple. What are you telling us?" Marple's eyes opened, her words cold. Two people worked against Dolly, not one. The village gathered whispers. By morning, every shop spoke the same name, Mrs. Pike. Her arrest had spread like fire. Women outside the bakery lowered their voices. She tried to kill Dolly. Poison, straight from her own garden. She will hang for it. Men at the pub leaned over pints. Never thought Pike had the guts. Not guts, desperation. She was in debt. Each word cut deeper for the colonel. He stayed inside Gossington Hall, curtains drawn, visitors refused. James brought meals upstairs, untouched, plates returned full. Slack shook his head. He hides from the world. Miss Marple disagreed softly. He hides from himself. Shame sits heavier than grief. Yet not all attention fell on him. Eyes turned toward Veronica Denham, her face calm, her manner polite. But she was seen often at the edge of the lane, waiting, watching, listening. That afternoon, Marple spotted her. Veronica left the church hall alone. She carried a small leather folio, tucked close to her chest. Marple leaned to Lake. "Observe her hands. That grip is not casual. It is fear of being seen." Lake narrowed his eyes. "She's hiding something." They followed discreetly. Veronica walked, briskly, past the green, past the post office, toward her rented cottage. At the gate she paused. She looked left, then right, her shoulders stiff. Marple whispered, "She fears watchers. That alone condemns." Veronica pushed the door open, her movements fast, sharp, curtains pulled tight, bolts secured. Lake moved closer. Through the side window he glimpsed her. She untied the folio. Loose papers spilled across the table. Marple nodded. "Bring Slack." Minutes later, Slack entered with authority. He knocked once. No answer. He knocked again, louder. "Police! Open the door!" Veronica froze inside. Her eyes darted to the table. Her fingers scrambled to collect the papers. Slack forced the latch. The door swung. He stepped in, Lake at his side. Veronica gasped. "You have no right." Slack cut her off. "Sit down, now." Marple entered last. Her eyes fell on the scattered sheets, typed statements, bank slips, receipts bearing Dolly Bantry's signature. Lake picked one up. "Hospital fund withdrawals, but the sums are missing." Marple bent closer. Her finger touched a line. The same misaligned letter, E. The same mark from the condolence cards. Slack lifted the folio. "Forgery. You wrote the cards. You played with death notices, and now we see the motive." Veronica's face paled. Her lips trembled. "It isn't what it looks like." Marple's voice, steady. "It looks like fraud. Money bled from the fund. Threats followed. Poison joined. A partnership, perhaps." Slack leaned in, his tone hard. "Mrs. Denham, you will explain every penny, and every letter typed with this cursed machine." Veronica clutched the papers tight, her eyes wet. Her voice cracked. "They forced me. I had no choice." Marple's gaze sharp. "Who forced you?" Veronica broke. Tears streaked her cheek. Her hands shook over the documents. Slack seized them. He spread them across the table, clear, undeniable. receipts linking Veronica directly to hospital fund fraud. The casket was finally opened. The villagers crowded near, the hall heavy with silence. Slack gave the order. The lid creaked back, eyes widened, gasps broke the hush. The coffin was empty. Slack stiffened. Lake muttered, "Impossible." Colonel Bantry staggered. His hand clutched the rail. His eyes red. "What have you done?" Marple spoke low. "No body. Because she still lives." Slack turned sharply. "Alive?" Marple nodded once. She never left the hall. Haydock helped. He shielded her. She feared Pike's hand. She staged her own death, to draw the snake from the grass. The colonel's knees buckled. James caught him steady. He whispered, "Madam lives?" Haydock entered from the side door, his coat worn, his eyes heavy. "Yes, she lives. She asked my care. She knew poison touched her breakfast. She guessed it was Pike. We hid her to confirm the truth." Slack's voice cut. "You hid her from the law." Haydock raised his chin. "I saved her life. Without the ruse, she was marked for death." Marple nodded. "Foxglove in marmalade. Pike confessed to that. But Dolly fell again, because another hand poisoned the seed cakes. That hand was not Pike's." Lake frowned. "Then who else?" Marple's eyes shifted. "To her." Veronica Denham stood near the back. The folio clutched tight. Her lips pressed, her eyes cold. Slack barked. "Step forward." She did. Calm, slow. Unmoved by the crowd. Marple spoke steady. "You typed the cards. The misaligned letter betrayed you. You sent the forged wreath. You forged receipts. The hospital fund bled through your hands." Veronica sneered. "I balanced books. Nothing more." Slack slammed the papers on the coffin lid. "Fraud, theft, now murder attempt. Explain this." Her voice flat. "She suspected me. Dolly Bantry suspected too much. She spoke of audits. She spoke of exposure. I could not allow it." Marple's tone sharp. "So you placed poison twice. You hoped Pike's hand would shield yours. If Dolly died, suspicion would rest only on her." Colonel's face fell. He whispered, "All this over money?" Veronica's laugh dry. "Not just money. Power. Control. You think this village runs on honesty? It runs on fear, and funds control fear." Slack stepped closer. "You admit it, then?" Her eyes narrowed. She did not flinch. Her words cut the silence. She was never meant to live. Truth sat heavy in the hall. No one moved. No one spoke. The air pressed down. Slack stood straight, his voice cold. "Mrs. Pike, you are under arrest." Pike shuddered. Her eyes dropped. Her hands twisted. "I only meant to scare her. I never wished her gone." Slack shook his head. "Fraud, embezzlement, poison. That is not fear alone. That is crime." Lake stepped forward. He fastened the cuffs. The sound echoed. Pike wept as she was led away. All eyes turned. Veronica stood still, her chin high, her face without color. Slack faced her. "You gave poison with intent to kill. You forged letters. You forged wreaths. You lined your pockets with fraud. You sought her end." Veronica smirked faintly. "You all needed me. You needed my charm, my accounts, my lies. Without me, your little village fund would have been exposed long ago." Marple answered soft. "Without you, Dolly Bantry would still trust her friends." Slack raised his hand. Lake moved again. The cuffs locked. Veronica did not resist. Her voice cut sharp. "Do what you will. I regret nothing." The villagers gasped. The colonel's hands trembled. His voice cracked. "My Dolly betrayed, in my own house, and I did not see it." Dolly's voice came faint from the doorway. She leaned on Haydock's arm, her face pale, but alive. "You could not see, Arthur. Betrayal wears friendly faces. That is its mask." He hurried to her. He held her hands. He whispered, "I thought I lost you." She managed a thin smile. "You nearly did." Twice. Not by fate. By greed. Slack turned away. Both women charged, one for fraud and poison attempt, the other for murder attempt. The law will not be gentle. The hall emptied slowly. Villagers whispered. Steps shuffled. Silence spread again. The colonel sat near Dolly. He looked hollow. He muttered, "What is left now?" Dolly sighed. "We go on, but trust is thinner than before." Haydock gathered his notes, his voice quiet. Life saved, but innocence lost. Marple remained seated, her knitting bag beside her, her eyes lowered, her thoughts restless. She spoke at last. Death was never real, but its shadow fell here. Poison touched cup and cake, lies filled cards and wreaths. Love turned to suspicion, neighbors turned to suspects, and greed dressed itself in condolence. No one answered. Her words hung in air. She folded her hands, her gaze steady, her tone final. Grief was staged, but corruption was real. And that in St. Mary Mead is the cruelest death of all.